Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Islanders. We hope you enjoy this edition.
Production of the Rhode Island Institute for Labor Studies and Research. I'm Tom Cobb from the Rhode Island AFL-CIO. Today with us we have State Senator Sandra Cano, and we'll be talking about the upcoming census. Hi, Senator. Thanks for coming in today to talk about the census. Can you tell our viewers a little about the census, what it is, when do we do it, and why it's so important?
Thank you so much, Tom. First, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about such an important issue like the census. The census is officially the count of the population of our nation, and it happens every 10 years. And it is important because it gets tied to many things such as resources for the federal government, and also our representation in Congress. So depending on our population and how we count people, then we have a designation of congressional seats to represent us at the national level. And the funding is important because depending on how many people we have in a state such as Rhode Island, then there is dedicated funding that comes to support housing, health, SNAP programs for children. So there's many things that come into place when it comes to the census. So every 10 years it happens, and we will have our census in 2020, so it's a year from now, and it will be April 1st, 2020. Everybody should remember that day.
Okay, and so next year around this time, it'll be taking place. What's at stake in the 2020 census?
Well, it is important that we recognize that we have to count everybody in order to retain a congressional seat in our state, but also $3.1 billion get allocated to Rhode Island for a year, 10-year period.
Okay.
So it would be around $3 million per year, which is a lot of good resources that again goes towards our family's support when it comes to school, education, health. So there is a lot of things that are at stake if we don't count everybody in Rhode Island.
All right. Okay, so everybody needs to be counted is basically what needs to be done. And what is different about the census that's upcoming next year?
So the first time that we will have an online census will be next year. So the Census Bureau is trying to ask everybody to fill out the formulary online. So that is very different from years before. I think that it's important that everybody recognize that everybody in Rhode Island has access to online to be able to fill out that questionnaire. So we need to work together to make sure that the census gets filled out by everybody, and that we could get resources available for people to be able to have online access to get to fill it out. Now, I understand also that if you, it's 5 attempts. It's 5 attempts that you get.
Okay.
So if you don't get by the 3rd attempt, if you don't get a questionnaire fill out online, then they will send you a paper one. Okay. But the first thing that they're gonna do is they're gonna try for you to fill out a questionnaire online.
All right, so nobody will be knocking on your door.
Well, they're trying to knock at your door, but that is just the last resource.
Okay.
And they're not putting a lot of money into people on the streets to do that, like they did in years before, because the resources were cut down from the federal level for the census. So we are doing the census in 2020 with the same resources we had in 2010. So if you think about it, that is the reason why they're doing the online.
Better use of resources.
Exactly.
Okay, so, and this year we also have the question of citizenship on the census. What's the deal with that?
Well, that is an important question. I think that due to the current environment in Washington, D.C., a lot of our residents in Rhode Island feel uncomfortable filling out that question. So right now, there is still a case in the courts waiting to be resolved to see if that question will indeed be in the census for 2020. Let's put the scenario that it will be in the census. So what happens? I'm a citizen of the United States. I'm also a proud immigrant. I could just leave that question blank, and the federal government has to count me in. That doesn't mean that they could share your information because the census is confidential.
Right.
So I would suggest that even though there is a lot of fear in the community, and even though people are scared of what would happen with that information of whether or not you are a citizen, we'll just leave that question blank, and you still get counted. That is my suggestion, and that is what I will do as a citizen of the United States.
Right. So that is a viable option. You can just leave that question blank.
That is one. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Recently, there was a rally at the State House last week, right? How did that go?
It went very well. I think that what we're trying to do with the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee, which is a group that the governor put in effect in an executive order in December of 2018, and we started meeting in February. This group got together with many businesses, the labor community, the community-based organizations to bring awareness that a year from last week, it will be Census Day. So what we did was we had a rally. We also had a resolution both in the Senate and in the House to pass this resolution to make sure that every Rhode Islander know that it's officially Census Action Day, a year from April 1st. So it's awareness, education, and it was important to highlight what needs to happen from now until then. We need to have a strategy to outreach and to make sure that we count every Rhode Islander. We also need resources for that. So I'd like to give you a little detail of what we had so far. So the governor had appropriated in the budget $150,000 for census strategy. The Rhode Island Complete Count Committee had identified that we need $1.2 million to make sure that we count every Rhode Islander, at least $1.2 million. The Rhode Island Foundation graciously came in and already put aside $250,000 to this outreach, which we are very grateful with the efforts of the Rhode Island Foundation, which means that we are trying to advocate for $350,000 more from our General Assembly, and that's what we try to do. After the rally, we had a Senate Finance Committee hearing for the census. It went very well. The senators were very diligent in asking questions of where this money is going to go and why do we need this money. And I think that it was very not only informative, but it was a good way of educating everybody that this is something that we cannot let behind. This should be a priority for all, and we should all work together towards that goal of counting everybody, because currently we have 24% of our population in Rhode Island as hard to count communities.
Oh.
So that is important. That percentage is a little high, and then so we need to make sure that we get to all of those communities.
All right. Well, you pretty much answered my next two questions. That were basically, what is the state doing to get ready for the census, and is there money in the state budget for the census? So
the process of the money in the state budget hasn't been finalized yet.
Okay.
We still have a lot of work to do.
Okay.
I think that we have a start with the $150,000 that the governor had put aside towards these strategy efforts, but we also are very conscious that we need to raise the allocation of state funding to $500,000, that's what we're asking, but we also need to raise the other $700,000, which Out of that, 250 had been allocated from the Rhode Island Foundation. So we still need private businesses, other foundations to come and help us get that money so we could get to that $1.2 million to make sure that we outreach to the hard-to-count communities.
Any other nonprofits or anybody else, any other interested parties come forward yet to say that they're interested in donating?
Sure. In the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee, we have the United Way of Rhode Island. We have the Champlain Foundation. So we're all working together towards the same goal. It's a matter of getting to that number and making sure that we do the pledge and allocate that money to make sure we get to that $1.2 million.
All right, you mentioned hard-to-count communities. What would you consider those to be?
So that could be from the range of low-income communities, seniors, young people, immigrants, or the minority community. That is what we call hard-to-count communities. And believe it or not, we do have very spread out hard communities around the state.
Yes.
It's not located in one city. We do have it all across our state, and we need to make sure we get to them. Remember, seniors don't have access to the internet. They know, and they don't trust so many of the people nowadays.
My mom.
So it is important that we take the responsibility of helping, working maybe with the housing authorities to make sure that they do know that this information is safe and help them through the process. We need resources for that, and that is why it's so critical.
Now, it was also mentioned to me that college kids around, especially around URI, around campuses like Roger Williams and Bryant,
Right.
Are areas that those kids can be counted because they're residents 9 months a year. They use our resources, and those are areas that we should concentrate on as well.
Absolutely. That's why we do have a lot of our education institutions on the table as the Complete Count Committee meets every month. We make sure that the message is there and everybody gets the same message. And then the next step of this is the strategy to make sure that we get to the students, to make sure that we have people going on campus, doing workshops, doing whatever it takes to make sure that everybody fills out that census questionnaire.
Fantastic. What can our union members do to help with the census taking?
I think that is a very important question. I believe that awareness is the most important thing. Not a lot of people realize that census is coming in 2020, and if you take the time to tell your family members, your friends, and then we do that as we continue to bring the awareness and the education, it's going to be easier for people to realize that that is important. It is also very crucial to know that this is the first time in 2 decades that we have a census during a presidential election. So that is also important. Why? Because civic engagement could be a way of getting people to be aware that the census is at the same time that our presidential election is coming. So we need to tie the message somehow. The other important issue that I believe for most of the people just bring the awareness factor is that this could be the first time since 1789 that we could lose a congressional seat.
Yes.
The first time since 1789. So that is important for all Rhode Islanders to know. We don't want to have less representation in Washington for our state.
No.
If anything, we want to retain and keep our seat. And I do know that it's important that we all work together to get that done. So I think it's important that we continue the awareness and education, Tom.
Okay. Now, is there a web page or someplace we can get information out to people so they're more aware of what they need to do?
Thank you. I think that right now the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee is working on a web page through the Department of Administration, where you can find all the resources. I don't have that web page yet, but it is soon to come. So I think it's important that we'll get that message when it's available to us.
Okay, you get that to me, and we'll get that out to our people. And thank you for coming in today. This has been extremely informative, and we will get this out to our members. And Thanks for coming on. Thank you for watching Labor Vision, and have a good night.
So this is an exciting day for Provport and the state of Rhode Island. About 2 years ago, we stood somewhere right about over there to celebrate the start of a new industry in the country as Deepwater Wind launched construction activities for the Block Island project, right here from Provport. We're extremely proud to have played a small part in helping to establish America's first offshore wind farm. Today, Provport is positioned to play an even larger role in this incredible effort to establish Rhode Island as a leader in renewable energy and offshore wind development. We look forward to the day that those cranes that are swinging over there behind us, rather than handling salt, or in addition to handling salt, will be handling offshore wind components and supporting construction activities. None of this could have happened without the support of so many that are gathered here today, and I speak for everyone at Provport and Waterson Terminal Services to say that we're ready to do our part. So with that, I'd like to commend Governor Raimondo for her vision to make this a reality, and I'd like to welcome the Mayor of Providence, Jorge Elorza, to the stage for some welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and I won't duplicate everyone that Chris has just recognized, but I do want to single out a couple of folks. First I want to recognize the governor. The governor has been a great champion for jobs and for economic development in our state. And it's been so great over the past 3 years and change, having a strong partner at the state level that's so laser focused and committed to bringing jobs to the city of Providence and to the state of Rhode Island. Please join me in recognizing Governor Raimondo. And just like everything else, it's not only one person or one institution, it's all of us working together that make this happen. I also want to recognize a good friend to the city and a good personal friend, someone who is leading the charge at the General Assembly, for the issues that matter for us, President Dominic Ruggiero. Thank you so much for your leadership, President. And of course, another great champion of the city of Providence and someone who has believed in a working waterfront and someone who's believed in preserving the jobs here at the Port of Providence for such a long time, United States Congressman David Cicilline. Thank you so much for always supporting our city. And certainly, last but not least, I gotta give a shout out to Mike Sabatoni, the president of the Rhode Island Building Trades Council. Again, it's about partnership. It's about bringing everyone to the table. And when we're all pulling in the same direction, everybody wins. So I look forward to seeing more jobs created here, making sure that more of our brothers and sisters in the labor trades are working. So thank you very much, Michael Sabatoni, for your leadership. Where you at, Mike? So it's great to see the capital city here playing center stage for innovation in technology and renewable energy with Deepwater Wind's Revolution Wind project. Thanks to collaborative efforts with our partners at the state level, Providence is seeing cranes in the sky across our skyline for the first time in a very long time. Small and big businesses are choosing to move and grow here. And with this project, we are ushering in the next generation of an offshore wind farm that has already made our state a national leader in clean energy.
From what I see and what's been happening in the state, we are on the forefront of this initiative nationwide. So I'm immensely proud to represent the Senate and my colleagues here, but it goes to show what can be done while everyone is working and rowing in the same direction. So I want to commend the governor for her initiative and her department heads and her staff for everything that they've done regarding locating this particular project here. And I think it's going to be a tremendous boon to not only to the state of Rhode Island, but also to the citizens of Rhode Island, because these are going to be very good paying jobs.
We're here today to celebrate really an enormous step forward that is happening because of the leadership of Governor Raimondo. And let me just outline what we're planning to do. Our Revolution Wind Farm will be a 400 megawatt project, so up to 50 turbines, 10 times the size of the Block Island project. It is an enormous clean energy machine, and it will displace about 650,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide every year. It is one of the most consequential clean energy projects in the history of the Northeast United States. And we're going to build it and deliver that at low cost. And it will be dramatically lower than any price that anyone has ever seen for offshore wind in the United States today. Dramatically lower, competitive with traditional sources of fuel, and really a game changer in the march towards replacing traditional sources of energy with clean energy. And so ratepayers are going to be very happy. And I can say that projects like this don't happen without leadership. They don't happen randomly. It takes real leadership, and Governor Raimondo really deserves a credit today because it was her bold vision to not just take an incremental step towards clean energy, but to choose the most consequential clean energy project in Rhode Island history and to make Rhode Island one of the national leaders in building clean energy. And so I can tell you that Governor Raimondo is working every day on our industry. The day that I found out about Deepwater's win, I get a call from Governor Raimondo, and after exchanging pleasantries, she said, give me a list of CEOs who don't have locations in Rhode Island who I can call now, who are in your industry. I want to start calling them and attracting them to Rhode Island. And that was her very first thought. And so it is that kind of leadership that takes this kind of new industry forward. Taking this bold step to really leapfrog others was a smart move. And they say, well, what's going on in Rhode Island? And I said, well, you have to meet Governor Raimondo. Then you'll know what's going on in Rhode Island. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Governor Gina Raimondo.
Thank you, Jeff. This is a fantastic day for Rhode Island. This is big. This is about as big as it gets. Thousands of jobs, a national leader, a huge increase in renewables, leading the way, a national example. Today's a day to celebrate. And to all of you here, and as I'm looking out, it took just about every one of you to play a role in making this happen. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. This was an exciting vision. It's something that's easy to talk about and hard to do. A lot of hard work, a lot of strategy, a lot of partnering. And to every one of you here who's played a role, I can't thank you enough. And on behalf of all of Rhode Island, thank you. I do, of course, want to thank Jeff. All teasing aside, Jeff is a fantastic CEO and partner without whom and his leadership this wouldn't have happened. I want to thank the mayor, who has been a staunch supporter of this project from day one, and of Provport. Thank you, Mayor, for your support. All started under then Mayor Cicilline, who was a huge supporter of Provport then and has continued to support renewables and wind in his position in Congress. So thank you, David, and of course my partner in the State House, the Senate President. Not a day goes by, literally, that the Senate President doesn't pay me a visit and say, more jobs today, Gov, more jobs today. So the guy's always got his pedal to the metal on behalf of Rhode Island. As has been said, it was just a little under 2 years ago that we were standing here with Jeff and the team, marking the final stages of construction on the Block Island wind farm. That was a pilot project making Rhode Island the only state in America with an offshore wind farm. And on that day, I said, and we said, offshore wind energy, renewable energy, is the future for Rhode Island. It was the beginning of something special, and Rhode Island would lead the way in America and become the epicenter of this industry. And today, we're making good on that promise. For a long time, and by the way, here on Allens Avenue in this area, for a long time, Rhode Island was the epicenter of manufacturing, particularly jewelry manufacturing. And then we watched that go away, all the jobs go overseas, and we didn't do anything. We didn't do enough to replace that industry with industries of the future. And as a result, we just watched all our friends and family and neighbors lose their job. And it landed us in a place with the highest unemployment rate in the country. And so today, we're saying, no more. No more. We're moving forward. We are finding new industries like offshore wind where we can be the national, international leader. We can move our state to a place of renewable, green, sustainable energy and create thousands of jobs in the process. And that's what this is about. This project is going to create 800 jobs over the next few years, as well as 50 permanent jobs. And we know from our experience in Block Island, it'll actually create many more jobs on top of that because of the indirect job creation. So again, I think this is 1,000+ jobs in the next few years, good, decent, high-paying jobs. At the end of the day, what this is all about is making Rhode Island a better place for Rhode Islanders. People that live here, people that work here, people that call Rhode Island home.
We could not have built the Block Island Wind Farm without the men and women of the Rhode Island building and construction trades. And I can tell you that we will not be able to build the next project without them again. We're going to need a lot of help, and we're going to need a lot of people. And I know that our partner, Mike Sabatoni, and the rest of his team in the building and construction trades will be with us every step of the way. They always have been. And we will prove to everyone that we really will be putting a lot of people to work in this industry right here in Rhode Island. So Mike, come on up.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. It's actually a real honor for me to be here today. A lot has been said about the Block Island Wind Farm, which the building trades were on and behind since the first announcement, I think back in 2006 or 2007. And why I'm so particularly proud to be here today is because while we were shepherding that first project through the various agencies and the General Assembly, there were a lot of naysayers about that project, that this announcement would never come. It was never about building 5 turbines off of Block Island. It was about exactly what we're doing here today, to create an industry, to create good, high-paying, high-skilled manufacturing jobs that'll be done right here in Provport and in Quonset. So I can't wait to bump into some of these naysayers after the announcement today. And there are key ingredients that go into things that happen such as today. And they're pretty common when we come to events like this. And the 3 key ingredients are government, business, and labor all pulling in the same direction to accomplish a goal, to invest in ourselves, to invest in our infrastructure. You know, elections have consequences. And the consequence of the election 4 years ago of Governor Gina Raimondo was, I've probably been under every bridge in the state of Rhode Island. I've taught 80% of the schools in Rhode Island. I've been down at Electric Boat announcing expansion there, and we're here today, so I'm going to say, let's keep going. This is an exciting time for the construction industry, it really is. So for any of you that have family members or friends that are interested in a career in construction, now is the time to have them pursue that career in construction. We are going to need talent like never before. We have to replace the men and women that we've lost in the Great Recession, as well as the aging population in the building trades. These are high-skilled, high-paying careers with good wages and benefits. So if any of you are interested or have someone that's interested, make sure you see me, get me their names, and we will make sure that they get an interview. And if they want a career in construction, now's the time. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.